Have you ever wondered how some successful people just stick with it and overcome their struggles and their obstacles? Well, today I'm going to share some stories of some pretty famous people, and life wasn't always rosy and easy for them, but they stuck with it and their story changed because sometimes our journey just is not a straight line. You got to bend with the curves. And all of this is to say, I have a story too, and it is still unfolding. So I am back with my channel after several months of not recording a video because my last few videos, you could tell like I was struggling with what I wanted to record, what direction I wanted to take the channel, and just my business. It's been a very, I've been in a phase of transition for way too long because I typically like to sit still, figure it out, and move forward. But for whatever reason, this season of my life, it has taken a little longer for me to do that. But I am definitely in a transformational stage. So I want to set the stage with some of the things that, like I said, some famous people have gone through on their journey to success. And I do air quotes because that is subjective. Now, I consider these people successful in their own rights, but everybody's version of that or definition of that differs. So for me, I'm rebuilding, I'm restarting. I won't say I'm reinventing myself, but I have totally stripped my business and I'm going in a much different direction. And all of that came because I just wasn't really moving through my challenges and hardships and things that I've been going through 2022 for my family. And even this year, we've had some family things kind of, I don't know, knocked the wind out of me. And I lost focus. I guess I lost my direction. And instead of walking my path like I typically do, I don't know whose journey I was on, but it was not mine. So let's get started with the first. So the first story I'm going to start with, it's Beyonce. So if you don't know this, I'm going to put this screenshot right here because Beyonce, from what I understand, somewhat grew up middle class in a house. She had two working parents, her younger sister. But as her father began to see the potential in the girls group, he went all in. And by doing so, he quit his full-time job. Now, her mother, I'm not sure if she owned the hair salon, but she was a hairdresser. I think she owned it, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, he quit his job. So they went from a two-income household to one. Now Tina Knowles is carrying it on her back while he tries to go out and get this girl group going because he saw the potential in his daughter and the other young ladies in the group. But by doing so, like I said, if you see this screenshot, they sold their cars, their house, and moved into an apartment. That's how much he believed in the dream to get his daughter off the girl group that his daughter was in off the ground. And that's what you have to do with your dreams. You have to believe, you have to commit to it. And you may go through some struggles, which is where I am now, but trust me, I am not Beyonce, nor am I close. But I am sticking, I have made the commitment that no matter what, I am not giving up on my dream and I'm going to see it through. And the road may be bumpy, I might get some detours, but I got my eye on the prize and I have to keep moving, which is what he did. Now, here's a quote from Matthew Knowles. And if you see, he's basically like, stick with it. Like you can't give up when things get rough. Story number 2, former President Barack Obama. Now, some people may know this story, some people may not. I heard it years ago and I had to search it out for the details. So when he went to California for the 2000 Democratic Convention in LA, he was broke. He had just lost some election in Illinois. He was not strong financially at all, from what I understand. So when he got to California, because he went, I guess, put the money together, just got on a plane. His friends said, come out there. I think they were going to share a hotel room. His credit card was declined and he couldn't rent a car. Somehow I think he ended up renting a car. I don't know how. But then he gets to the convention and he's on some type of little pass that doesn't allow him on the floor of the convention. He can't get in the after parties. He can't do anything. So he just decides to cut his losses and go back home. Now that's 2000. Nobody really knows who he is. And clearly, credit card decline. He was not doing well financially. Fast forward 4 years, he's the keynote speaker at the next convention. And the rest is pretty much history because that keynote speech put him on the radar politically, and then is when I became aware of him. Everyone's talking about this young senator, out of Illinois. 4 years later, he wins the presidential election. He's the president of the United States. So in 8 years, he went from can't even get in the convention, credit card being declined, to he's the president of the United States. But his vision took him there. Now, this I somewhat remember. Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Back during the dot-com, if you remember when everything, they were, I don't know, the stocks to me were artificially inflated, but they were trading really high. And from my recollection, again, don't quote me on this, I think Amazon was actually operating in the red, but their stock was trading like triple digits. But then, the bubble burst. A lot of dot-coms didn't make it through. Silicon Valley went through some things, but Jeff didn't give up. Instead of, throwing in the towel, he figured out a way to change his business model. And here is, let me do it this way. We'll do it over here. Is how he changed on some cash conversion system, is how fast you flip over the inventory, I guess. But instead of throwing in the towel, because you figure back then there was Borders, Books, Barnes and Nobles, which is still somewhat, we have a couple here in Nevada. There's still some still around, but there were a lot more bookstores. The same thing happened, in videos. When Netflix came and started mailing them to you, Blockbuster slowly went away. So that was a time when he had a different vision and he kept going instead of throwing in the towel. Plus, we've gone from them selling books to you can buy anything and everything you want on Amazon. But he stayed committed despite challenging times. So number 4, Steve Jobs. Here we go again. So right here, this clip or a screenshot. So, he got kicked out of Apple once, about 85. He takes all of his money, sells his stock. He's down to 10 million, which for me, 10 million looks pretty good. But I guess at his income level, he's down to his last 10 million. He doubled down. He buys an animation studio, which later becomes Pixar, which later he sells to Disney. So instead of giving up when he was down to his last 10,000, he just went all in. He was committed to his vision and he put his money where his mouth was. Then he goes back to Apple. Rest is history with Apple. I'm not an Apple user. I'm still an Android and PC. But most people who switch over, they buy everything. They got the phone, they got the iPads, they got the Mac computers. Typically, if you're an iUser, you're a Mac user, that's what you use. But he turned that around when he came back. Lastly, number 5, Elon Musk. So apparently after he sold PayPal, he's down to his last millions. And he has Tesla and some other things going on. But he's almost broke. Screenshot here. But he stays with it. The quote shows that he's in a very dark place. But on December 23rd, I guess somebody said Merry Christmas to him because he won a 1-point-something billion contract from NASA. And then he was able to commit to not one, but I guess 3 different businesses. He went all or nothing. So the moral of these stories are that you have to stay committed. For me, that's the moral. There are going to be challenges. Most time people look at where Beyonce is, where Obama was, he became the president, what Steve Jobs did before he passed away. They look at in the present after they've achieved everything. But the lessons are in their journey. Where did they start? how many times did they fail before they got up, and then that last time gave them the momentum and pushed them forward. And that's what, when I'm going through things, I find lessons in other people's story. So now we'll talk about me. While researching their stories, because I had heard these things over the years, the common thread was resilience. Like they didn't give up. So if you've seen some of my other videos, I was talking about fourth quarter 2023 was the worst quarter of my business ever. Like I made less money that quarter than I did in 2018 when I was testing the market. And so I reflect. I don't live with regret, but I will take things that have not worked out to my benefit, and I reflect and I try to see if there's a lesson in it. And I've said that in multiple videos. So with that, I felt like fourth quarter, I already had a shop. I hadn't really been running it before then, but starting, I can't remember, maybe August, September, I started putting up more listings. I created some listings for ornaments. I created some new listings for mugs because that's typically what I sold in that store. And I started just, putting new designs in the store. And new listings typically get you a temporary boost on Etsy. But my heart really wasn't in it. But while I was working on what I thought was going to be my other business, which is my other shop, which is digital products, I figured that shop would bring in some income while I'm focusing my energy over here. Well, that didn't work. And the thing is, your energy brings things to you. Now, all of this is my perception on things. It's how I live my life. It's how I see things. But how could if I didn't really have the energy into it, I was really just going through the motion. Like, I remember I was frustrated, like, I didn't get this done today. I need to get this. I got all these things to do and blah, blah, blah. It was so much negative energy around that. So it's not really a surprise that the shop didn't do well. Now, when I started in 2019, there's a video on my channel where I made $15,000 in 1 month. I didn't have any expectations. I really had just started putting things into the store. That was going to be my first full quarter in business because in 2018, I had tested the market. So that quarter of 2019, I was going all in. And the shop blew up. But I was pleasantly surprised. But I worked every day, just, learning the platform, creating designs. I was enjoying the creative process. I got into what I call the digital paper dowels. They're customizable clip art. And I had paid someone to create my own. And I was just enjoying it, creating this, doing this. So mine stood out from other people. And then I had a couple of things that went viral, which is why I made so much money that quarter. But it was a totally different mindset, which is the first principle of the micro principles: mindset, intention, choices, action, and habits. And I set my intention, like my intention that quarter was to jumpstart my business, to take the momentum for fourth quarter because people are spending and buying anyway, and then use that to really jumpstart my business. I mean, I far exceeded my expectations. Like I said, it was a pleasant surprise, but my energy that quarter versus my energy in 2023 was totally different. And both reflected it because the energy in 2019 was up here. I was enjoying it. I liked doing it. I was talking to my friends how well the shop was doing. And then as it picked up, it was just this frenzy and my vibration was really high. Whereas fast forward to 2023, it was a means to an end. Well, I'm going to do this. I'll put some things in here. I'll, post some Pinterest things. I'll get some traffic to the shop and it's just going to take off and, I'll make some money. Like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I'll bring in some money while I'm working over here on my digital products. And that's good. That's a new shop. It's going to take more to get it off the ground. Whereas the other shop, I have like 900 reviews, 4,000 or 5,000 in sales. So people look at that and I was like, yeah, it'll do okay. Well, when it didn't, and I come into 2024, and now I've put all of that time and energy starting in like August, September to build this shop out, and it didn't do anything. I could have been focusing on what I thought was the real goal was the digital shop. So I was like, okay, stop the madness. Like, what are you doing? What is it that you want? Don't throw things to the wall and see what sticks, just following the money. That's not how I live. So I had somewhat lost my way. I don't know whose beat I was walking to, but it was not mine. So I just paused and I was like, it's going to take however long it's going to take for me to figure out what is going on in my life and like, why am I somewhat stuck in this season? And I keep doing this because, like I said, to me, things are based on your own perception. But for how I live my life and the things I expect for myself, I was just out of alignment. Like there were I didn't feel like myself, and I was stuck there too long by my standards. Because like I said, I typically reflect and then I can try to figure out what it is and I can move forward. Well, I was staying here too long. So you figure it is now July 13th. It maybe took me till about April. Like, it took me a few months. And I was just like, okay, what is going on here? Well, what happened is I started journaling. Now, I used to journal off and on, but not really consistently. And I use journaling. I have a vision board, but if you've watched some of my other videos, I talk about scripting. So I script, which for me is just journaling about the life that you have in your dreams, but you're writing it as if you're living it, which is how I came across the law of assumption, which is Nevin Goddard, I think is his name. So that is like you operate from a place is as though your life is as you envisioned it. So who is that person? What would she be doing? So I drew a little thing, and I've talked about this before, and I don't know, I must have been talking about it, lip service, and not living it. But then one day I sat down and I was like, okay, this is this Sherry. And then this is millionaire Sherry. Now, what is millionaire Sherry? What does her life look like compared to this life? And they were not close at all. And millionaire Sherry, what is her mindset? What are the things she's doing? What is she reading? Who is she around? Like all of these things. So present day Sherry, she was pretty far away from millionaire Sherry. So I had to start doing things, but I didn't want to become overwhelmed with it. So I was like, what I decided to do is I was like, okay, write it out. You're here and you want to be here. What's going to bridge the gap? What business are you running? Stop chasing things. Stop, dividing your time. Like, this is not you. I don't know who it is, but like, just stop it. So I was like, okay, journaling really put me on a different path. So the things that I was doing in my digital shop, which is mindful money products, I thought that was my end game because I'm pretty passionate about that. But we don't always make money from our passions. So I sat down and I was like, okay, you enjoy that. You enjoy talking about it. You enjoy teaching it. But is it really the end game? Because at this stage, can't keep, pivoting. Well, I could, but I don't want to keep pivoting. So as I was journaling and things and saw the impact that was having on my life, I was like, I really like this. And I had some ideas for different journals because now I knew I was starting to move out of it because my creativity was coming back. While I was in, I don't know, that dark period or something, that season of my life, my creativity juices were not flowing. Like it was challenging to come up with ideas. But now, I told my daughter, I had so much coming at me. I was just like, okay, stop. I had index cards. I would come up with something. I would write it down. So I was like, okay, pick the top 3 to figure out what it is you want to work on this year. And then use those, launch those as digital products. And then use the one that does the best, that resonates the best with my audience as a physical journal. Because I have never wanted a physical product. Digital products to me are so much easier because they're not quite passive, but they're pretty close to passive. Because once you create it, even though you may revise it over time, you create it once, you put it on Etsy or whatever platform you're going to use, and then someone buys it and it just sends it to them. You're not involved. Whereas a physical product is going to require a fulfillment center. You know, to do things in the United States is pretty costly. So I'm going to have to look overseas. You know, there are a lot more moving parts with it. But I sat with that for a little while and I decided, but that's what I want to do. Like, you know, I started gravitating towards different people's journals, looking at what styles sell better, all of that. It just started to evolve naturally. So my journey, where I thought I was in a dark season of my life, I just needed to take time and sit down and figure out at this stage, what is it that you really want to do? I don't even know that Etsy will be my final platform because there's so many things changing over there. You know, I talked about it in another video around Christmas. There were so many YouTube videos about things that were going on Etsy, because I want to be on my own platform where I'm not, you know, subjected to the changes that somebody else is implementing. So ultimately, if it's not Shopify, it'll probably be something like that. And I'll, sell through my website to get traffic to my blog. My goal now is to own the things that are part of my business, my blog, do better at building an email list, an audience. And then that was the other thing, like, with the audience building, I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about. And as I started creating the journals, everything around the journals is self-discovery, which, I kind of had to go through. Like, being true to myself. And by being true to myself, I will naturally attract people who have similar opinions. They're on a personal growth journey, and they're on a journey. I'm not trying to meet a destination, because just like this, I started last fourth quarter 2023, trying to generate some money so that I could get this digital shop, which is mindful money products, digital products, to now a physical journal business. Not even close. Not actually even on my radar. So you have to allow your journey to evolve. And sometimes just allow yourself to explore, which was actually one of my words of the year, I think a couple of years ago. Explore and possibility. So allow your mind to be open to the possibility. And as things present themselves to you, even if it's not in alignment with where you thought you were going or what you thought your journey would be open to receiving it. Because I'm not a religious person, but I am more spiritual than I am religious, I should say that. But I have one of the Bible verses in my room, and the gist of it is, like, God's plan is so much bigger for me than I could ever imagine. So sometimes I have to open myself up and get out of my own way, which I feel while I was in that season where I wasn't being productive, efficient, and I felt stuck, is because I was on the Sherry journey. I was looking at Sherry's vision, and I probably was blocking what was trying to be sent to me. I wasn't open to receiving it. And I'm sure I probably missed opportunities in that season, because now I can feel the things shifting. Even different podcasts that I wouldn't typically listen to seem like they've crossed my path, and they're more aligned with where I am now with my mindset. And I've gotten back to the micro principles, which, good news, that is definitely my brand, and I am moving forward with my trademark for it. So mindset, I feel like I haven't mastered it, but because that's just a journey. But I did have to wrap my head around with just enjoying the journey and stop looking at this like I had a pinpoint destination that I was trying to get to, and there was just this like highway that was going to get me there, instead of allowing myself to bend with the curves, because that's normally how I live my life. But when things are not in alignment, and especially since my money wasn't flowing the way I wanted it to, your decisions are based on things that might be outside of the way you would normally do things. And that was another, like, I broke so many Sherry rules during this season. I typically do not make decisions based on money. I normally take money out of the equation, and I try to figure out, what would I do if money wasn't involved? What would I decide? What direction would I head? And I didn't do that last year. I focused on that shop strictly to bring in income while I supposedly built my dream over here. But all of that needed to play out because I do believe like sometimes things are put in your path because this is a part of my journey. Like I needed to go through that to get here. And when I went back, because I saved, like I said, I've journaled over the years, just not consistently. Like some people journal every day. If you ever listen to Oprah, she talks about how much she's journaling. Journaled in her lifetime. I can't say that's me. Like I'll journal and then I may not journal for a year or whatever, but I do keep them. And when I went back to 2012, that's 12 years ago, I wanted a physical product. Then it was a planner journal. I wanted a platform where I could share stories and other people could share their stories about how they pivoted or how something in their life changed them to changed the path and they ended up in a different place. And, I don't like saying better. And that was more in alignment when they looked at their life where they probably should end up. Like, as I went back and read some of the things, 12 years later, I'm back to the point I was then, a physical product, becoming healthy, losing weight, all these things that, I've been talking about in recent years. So this video has gotten a little longer than I wanted, but I am getting ready to start posting on a regular basis again. So if you've made it this far, again, I'm going to thank the people who stick around because it's not going to be what it was, Canva tutorials, Etsy tutorials, things like that. It's going to be more about my journey of getting back to me. And in that process, as I'm building and improving who I am and growing and empowering myself to move forward, my business will reflect that just organically, which is what happened before. So now I'm going to share my journey, and through that, hopefully you will pick up, little tidbits here and there that may help you. Just like I told those first 5 stories, those are inspiring stories. All of those individuals went on to do good things. Not just looking at the financial aspect of what they achieved, but they reached a level, I'm sure, of what they were dreaming that they wanted to do with their life. And that's a good thing. So the channel will focus more on that. Self-discovery, empowering yourself, living in alignment with who you really are, being true to yourself. And the people who fall off from that journey, there's a thing, reason, season, lifetime. So if you lose people while you're on that journey and a self-discovery journey, like every day doing like a small percentage of something to just move you forward, improve your life, improve your business, then it is what it is. But that's the direction of the channel. And through that, because it's also focused on entrepreneurship, because that's a big part of me, owning my own business, there will be tools that I will come across on this journey that I'll share. There's still different things, but it won't focus so much on the tutorials anymore. It's really my life journey, getting back on that path of being true to me, because I think in that season, I lost that. So hopefully you'll stick around and take the journey with me, because I do think stories, I learn from other people's stories, so hopefully you can learn from mine. And eventually I want to get this channel back to where I used to bring people on like once a month, and other people can share their stories, because there's always something we can learn from someone else's journey. So have a good one, and it is good to be back. Don't forget, thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back on a weekly basis.